All right, welcome everybody. It is me, Sam, and I got Cryptovestor here today for his Cryptovestor Alpha Corner. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Or GM.
Be here.
Great article this week. That was very cool, sniffing out the FraxChainPortal.sol and the FraxChainEthMinter.sol in the Frax Repository.
Yep, it's very exciting. I think that's kind of a sign. I think that things are going to be coming a lot sooner than we probably anticipated. So that's exciting news.
Yeah. So Sam has said a couple of times that it's going to be January.
Yeah.
It's like less than 60 days, pretty much.
It's
kind of crazy,
Yeah. I can't wait to see what those sequencer fees are going to look like to FXS holders. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
And when the BAM is launched on FraxChain, what that's going to do when it attracts liquidity, what that will do to close in on the collateralization ratio. I think people are not expecting that. That's a point that they're not really honed in on.
Yeah, I'm looking at the just dynamism that'll bring back. I think that once FraxChain has its own network, it can help craft a narrative of like, okay, come to our network, build a successful app. If you build a successful app, you're going to get paid in VFXS as running that app. And I think that's really cool. So like, let's say, for the people that deploy GMX or some other type of app, they're more incentivized on like token performance, right? But with Frax, you could set it up where the deployer gets either like ETH or VFXS or some other type of monetary token that really helps with like costs and fees or just,
Yeah, I mean, like, you're right. Like if you're a GMX or if you're like one of these bigger protocols, why wouldn't you want to come to Frax? You're incentivized to come, right? You're incentivized to come to the chain, and that's going to attract a lot of liquidity. Look what happened with Base. I mean, if Base could do it without those incentives, I just can only imagine, what that's going to do. And if it attracts a lot of liquidity and, you have all of the Frax related products, Frax Lend, Frax Swap, BAM, all on there, I can imagine, that's probably, especially if it's in the BAM, I think the liquidity there, I think will be a big deal for the backing, Frax backing in general.
Exactly. So let's talk about Convex, because with the successful launch of both FFX and Prisma, Convex has been the biggest beneficiary of this. They have seen huge inflows for each of these assets and now have new revenue sources.
Yep. And now new Bribe markets, for Prisma. So I think a win-win, right, for Frax and for Convex lockers. I know that Votium already is ready to go, I think, in the next round, and Hidden Hand is, not too far behind. So Frax will likely, participate in the bribing for, Prisma emissions. And that means that, again, kind of going off what we said last week, the emissions are going to be, Frax is definitely going to win that war, and their vault is going to see, huge APRs.
Yeah. So just to let everybody know where Frax is, Frax has 3.6 million CVX. And the next closest person is Clever, who has 2.6 million CVX, and then JPEG after that with 1.5 million CVX. So there is a significant gap between Frax and everybody else when it comes to CVX. And there's a ton of fees that are being generated by Prisma right now, as well as FXN. And all that goes back to Convex, and it's helping boost up its intrinsic price.
Right. And I think something else that you should point out is that, none of those providers that are, or LSDs that are on Prisma, at least right now, are CVX holders. I mean, Rocket Pool doesn't hold CVX. Lido doesn't hold CVX, and neither does Coinbase. Love it to see if they do at some point, but Frax is the only one that's going to be able to really. Now, the others got votes. Obviously, we saw the last round; they got votes. Everybody was trying to participate, and I voted for Frax. And that's why Frax got a little bit of a boost there.
Yeah.
With my convex, but now that there's a bribe game in place, it's just the majority is going to go to it. Now it becomes an economic incentive, right? So I think Frax will win. And you're going to see consistently high APYs, which is going to cause, again, like I think a explosion in the minting of FraxETH and using it on Prisma. So it's pretty awesome what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And again, let's not forget about the curve pools, because it's not just the vaults on Prisma; it's individual curve pairs that we can incentivize.
Yeah. Yeah, I've kind of come to understand like the power that Frax has through Convex now. Like Convex is really the premier place if you're going to have any sort of connection to Curve to deploy and have your governance token.
It's a liquidity engine. It's a liquidity tool.
Yeah, exactly. And so Convex really gets first pick on every single asset that comes through, or every single protocol that comes through the Curve ecosystem. And if people have VE tokenomics that are being built on it, then Curve really gets to pick and choose what it thinks the best protocols are going to be. And it's really picked winners. Prisma's done really well, $300 million TVL. fETH, which you wrote about this week in your Alpha Corner, has been crushing as well too. So, and then Frax obviously has been doing well. So Convex has really done a great job of onboarding the right protocols in.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't other ones that are being talked about right now. I don't know about them. Like if I had the alpha, I'd let you know. But I'm sure they're very tight-lipped about it. But I'm sure there's more. I mean, there might be 2 or 3 others that they're talking to right now. But yeah, fETH kind of piqued my interest this past week. I mean, it's been on my radar for a while, obviously, but I just we were kind of light on the Frax alpha side this past week, and I was like, well, let me see if I can talk about this. And there was a lot going on in the fETH Discord, and I just find it's another tool that Frax can use to enhance what they're doing with FraxETH.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a tweet that I found here, just talking about the intrinsic value of VLCVX. So this is from Jason Hitchcock, who runs Third Web.
Yeah, I know.
Yep. So he posted this a couple of days ago, and it's just a gentle reminder that VLCVX trades at this was back then, right? So 17% discount to intrinsic value. That's probably even bigger now because it's at 353.
Right. And they've actually, if you look at it now, I think the Prisma is up to like 4 million or 4.5 million now.
Oh, wow.
So every week that goes by, it's just accumulating a lot more Prisma. So basically, Convex will own all of the Prisma that's circulating, or the majority of it, and will be able to vote for all of the remaining emissions that have been slated for Prisma, to be used on the platform. So it's a win-win. I see it like this, Sam. I see it like Prisma is just a bolt-on to the Curve token. So it's like, yeah, you're going to get Curve emissions, you're going to get FXS emissions, and you're going to get CVX emissions, and you'll also get Curve emissions, or Prisma emissions, I should say. So you get all 4, like depending on what pool Frax really wants to incentivize. He can, Sam or team can just say, well, we really want our base pool to have the majority vote here, and throw a whole bunch of emissions. And so it's really very in line with the Curve token, because it's just another incentive they can throw at these pools.
Yeah, and as Convex continues to grow, it benefits Frax in the long term.
Right.
Too.
Exactly. And we talk a little bit about how fETH will do that for Frax, and that's what I kind of was trying to get at with the article. Right now, fETH is using Lido, staked ETH, And it makes sense. I mean, deep pools, deep liquidity, that's where you probably start. I did talk to Charlene on Discord, and staked Frax ETH is in the works. So the question is like, and there's discussions in the DAO right now, and I'm active with that too, as to what are the next steps with Frax ETH. Are they going to create new F tokens for each ETH LSD, or are they going to make it so you can just deposit any LSD to mint the fETH token? So I was talking to her about it, and it's like a trade-off, right? If you have all of them deposited into the same pool, you run the risk of one of them failing and creating a systemic risk for the token, right? For fETH. But if you have separate tokens and you have separate pools, then you are isolating the risk. So it's very likely that we'll see an staked Frax ETH and an X staked Frax ETH. So I know it's not a little confusing, but basically you'll be able to it's a little crazy, but you'll have a non-volatile version of staked Frax ETH and a volatile leveraged version of staked Frax ETH. And that non-volatile version, the fETH, will be able to be staked or deposited into their rebalance pool, which will earn the highest yields, right? Because Frax's yields are already high. And again, let's go back to Convex. They will be able to vote for emissions. So Frax will be able to say with their Convex vote, let me send over as many emissions as I can, FXN emissions, to that rebalance pool. So if it wants to build up the Frax ecosystem and, deposits into the Frax fETH vault, then that will obviously benefit Frax. And so that's kind of where I think it's starting to come into view now, how Convex is so powerful for Frax, and why why f of x can be powerful for Frax as well.
Yeah, for staked Frax ETH.
Yeah.
Same goes for Prisma as well too.
Yeah, same goes for Prisma. But remember, and I don't think people are thinking of it this way, but everybody wants to earn the staked Frax ETH yield, but they don't want exposure to the risk of the value of ETH. So everybody's happy when ETH is at 5,000-10,000 and earning crazy yields, in the bull run. But how do people achieve those even higher than those yields? They can basically mint the F version of Frax, right? They can deposit into the rebalance pool and maybe earn 10% with the FXN emissions. So what does that do? It creates a lot of demand for Frax ETH. And, I think again, it's just part of the flywheel. So, last week it was Prisma. This week it's F of X,
Well, that's great to hear. And that is a great update. I would recommend everyone to go check out the video, or not the video. This is the video, but the article that Cryptovestor wrote that covers F of X today. Also some of the other topics that we covered, like Prisma and the upcoming Frax chain. So Cryptovestor, thank you for sharing the alpha with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to doing it again.
All right.
All right.